Serious teachers of Reddit, what is the most disturbing thing your student has ever done? I used to teach a PE class to 3 to 5 year olds. I had this one kid who used to come with his friend from kinda. His friend's mother apologized to me numerous times and said she never would have offered to bring him if she knew what he was like. More than once I had to evacuate the rest of the kids from the gym because this 3-year-old would be running around the gym screaming for who I can see you at the top of his lungs while trying to punch, kick or headbutt other kids. You never knew what would set him off. If you asked him to kick a ball, he was equally likely to kick another student or the ball. One time he went so violent that I couldn't get him away from the other kids and ended up wrapping him up in the firm cuddle technique, which they definitely don't teach teachers about anymore. I basically dropped him to his knees with me on my knees behind him, arms wrapped around his arms and his chest. The only part he could move was his head, and he kept trying to smash the back of his head into my face. But the worst part was the laughter. He normally had a vague, empty look on his face, but when he was trying to hurt someone he would scream with laughter wearing the biggest shit-eating grin. I only had him for 10 sessions once a week, but holy fuck, I will never forget that kid. Was teaching 7th grade in what we call in Germany gymnasium, something like high school, and it was the second week of the year. I noticed some kind of stress in him, and then at one point he erupted. Threw his pencil case against the blackboard, yelled, "Everything is shit. Everything." Stood up, climbed on the desk, pulled out his penis, and peed while crying. The whole class including me was just shocked. I would like to prevent this situation, but it just escalated so quickly, and when it was happening it was so surreal I was paralyzed. After what felt like 100 years I just grabbed him, threw him over my shoulder, and walked out of the classroom. Held him by his hand while shouting into the classroom that they should stay in the classroom while I'm away and only leave it for the next class. I went to call his parents. He got picked up and never came back to this school. I don't know what happened to him. I had a 5th grade student pick up 2 brick-sized rocks and try and stone another kid to death. Back when I was a teacher, one of my students randomly started punching another kid, his friend, in the middle of class, no provocation whatsoever. The puncher was into bodybuilding and pretty in shape, and he had never been violent before in school, so this was both surprising and hard to break up considering his size. He broke his friend's nose and was smiling after, had no idea what he did was weird or upsetting. I taught 3rd graders for a year, so the kids were around 9 years old. It was a couple of days before summer holidays and I asked the kids what they were going to do during summer. I got to this one girl and asked her what she was going to do, and she happily announced she was going to Germany with her sister and parents. I asked her what she was going to do in Germany, and she said she was going to ask people if they have €1. I was like, what? And she proceeded to sit down on the floor with a really sad look on her face, stuck her hand out to me and said, "See, like this. Please miss, do you have just €1? I'm hungry." She didn't really see anything wrong with this. I'm pretty sure she didn't really understand what she was doing. I was quite alarmed by this, so I informed the other school staff. It turned out that, even though they weren't actually poor, her parents were regularly taking their 2 daughters to Germany over summer, where they would make them beg for money in the streets. I heard the girl and her sister got pulled out of school shortly after that, but I don't know what happened after, since I don't work there anymore. I taught college. I taught mostly seniors and grad students. I had to essentially sit with a disturbed student in my office and keep him talking as campus police searched his office and workstation. The kid made threats against other students and the students waited to tell me until it got really bad. When I intervened, he started threatening me, like on my personal cell phone, personal email, stuff like that. My husband told me to tell campus police, which I did, but everyone told me there was nothing really they could do. The chair of my dept couldn't even kick him out of my class because he was enrolled through a different department. His home department was slow to do anything. I called a meeting with him to ostensibly talk things out, but I had told my tar to search his stuff. My tar immediately called campus police, who went with him to search those areas. They found some stuff in his office, enough to kick him out of school, but nothing that rose to criminality. Well, that is, until he brandished the gun that was in his backpack. This happened as he stepped out of my office and my tar and campus police stood there. I watched a campus cop literally tackle him off his feet. At the first school that I taught at, I had a girl come up to me one day and say, "Robert has a knife." I pulled Robert into the hallway to talk with him about it. He said that he didn't have a knife, but did have a box cutter. I asked him why he had it and he said, "Because I'm tired of Chris." Chris was an annoying suck up, but wasn't really bad or mean to other kids. I asked Robert what he was planning on doing to Chris. He said, "I'm going to get him in the bathroom." I usually took the class to the restroom after lunch, but I didn't that day because they were being rowdy in the hallway. I took Robert to the office, and after hearing the story, the principal chewed him out. She then called Robert's mom, and she chewed him out on the phone. Here's the kicker. Robert knew that he was in serious trouble. He knew that what he was planning was wrong. He just didn't care. Not in a false bravado macho type was. He literally didn't care. I hate to predict a kid's future criminal endeavors, but that kid scares me. By the way, Robert was 8 years old at the time. I was a preschool teacher at the time. I was doing group time, singing songs, reading a book, and all the kids were sitting on the floor. One left to blow her nose. She came back, walked through the crowd of kids to get back to her spot, grabbed a quiet girl's hair, and kept walking. My assistant thought it was a mistake, but the girl kept walking. She even bent at the knees and yanked while the poor long-haired girl screamed. That girl had no remorse and would be so unpredictable. She would look in your eyes, but right through them. It was a stressful year. Recently had one of my students tell a pregnant teacher that he wanted to punch her in the stomach. Another student said, "You can't do that. She's pregnant." The first student then said, "That's the point. These are 5th graders." This is also in a school that rarely has behavior problems, so this was quite a shock.